How's it going, everybody? If you are operating a box truck here in Michigan for your business, whether it is for hauling general freight, moving jobs, or maybe you just are using it within your own business for hauling your own goods and materials, then this video is for you. As far as your business insurance goes, you're obviously going to need some form of commercial auto insurance coverage. And I wanted to go over a common question that I do get quite often, and that is, do I need $1 million in liability coverage on this policy? Thank you for stopping by. My name is Brian. I'm an independent insurance agent based here in the state of Michigan, Metro Detroit specifically, and I work with businesses on their commercial insurance programs, as well as helping families and individuals with their personal insurance, their home, their auto insurance as well. My goal with this channel is to pass on a little bit of educational information to you so that you can make more informed decisions around your insurance, and then overall help answer any questions that you might have. So let's get into it. And before we get too far into the video, I do want to invite you to subscribe to the channel, and if you find this video helpful, useful, anything like that, please feel free to like, share, pass it along with anyone else as well. So the short answer is yes. For most businesses, starting with $1 million in your liability coverage on your commercial auto policy is going to be a great idea. It's going to be common for many business contracts, maybe shipping companies, delivery platforms, whoever you're working with, to require at least this amount of coverage. But depending on who you're working with, they might even require higher limits. And depending on, again, who you're working with, your operation as a whole, how many vehicles you have, it might be a good idea to carry higher limits. And now, what exactly does liability on a commercial auto policy cover? If you are ever involved in an accident, it'll help cover things like bodily injury and property damage for third parties. And this will include things like any medical expenses and legal fees that might come from a lawsuit because of the accident. And in most cases, having that $1 million liability limit is going to give you a solid layer of protection for most circumstances. And if your business is doing any sort of work under your own DOT authority, the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Association, is oftentimes also going to require this $1 million auto liability coverage. And again, depending on your operations, what you're hauling, these coverage limit requirements could be higher. Now, beyond this auto liability coverage on your commercial auto policy, what other coverages could you be looking at and considering? One part is going to be your physical damage coverages, your comprehensive and your collision coverage. And this provides coverage for your own actual vehicle. So if you're ever involved in an accident, it gets stolen, vandalized, these coverages would help with the repairs and replacement costs for your vehicle. And it is important to note, if your truck has any sort of financing, these coverages are oftentimes going to be required. And then there are other important coverages on the policy as well, such as with uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. It should always be the same limit as you have for your regular liability, so in this case $1 million. And it's very important, especially here in Michigan, because we do have a very high rate of uninsured drivers. And then there's also your PIP coverage. Even though this is a commercial policy, you still will need to make a PIP coverage selection, and we always recommend going with unlimited, just like with a personal policy. And as a reminder, your PIP coverage, not your health insurance, is what helps pay for any medical expenses due to injuries from an auto accident. So very important coverage to have, especially here in Michigan. And now something you might be wondering and asking about is general liability insurance. This is an insurance policy that is talked about quite often, especially when it comes to business insurance. And this is a separate liability coverage, separate liability policy that many businesses will be required to have. And this would help cover any accidents, incidents that happen off the road that your business could be held responsible for and involved in. So think of something like a situation where you are unloading materials, something like that, at a customer's location, property, job site, whatever it may be, and somebody gets hurt or there's property damage. This is where general liability coverage would step in. And another insurance coverage that could be worth considering depending on your operations could be motor truck cargo insurance. And this helps protect the actual freight itself that you could be hauling for somebody else while it is in your care, custody, and control, in case it gets maybe damaged or stolen. And this is a coverage that is not typically included in a standard commercial auto policy, so it is very important to make sure that you add it on separately if you do need it. And now, again, depending on the business contracts you have in place and your operations, you might need higher liability coverage limits. And this is where a commercial umbrella policy could come into play. This is a policy that would sit over top of your commercial auto, general liability insurance, and if you do have employees, your workers' comp coverage as well. And this provides additional liability coverage in case those primary policy limits are ever exhausted in a claim situation. Unfortunately, this coverage can be fairly affordable to add on, so definitely something worth looking into and worth considering if it's needed. And then other coverages that I briefly mentioned as well, workers' comp, if you have employees, this is required here in the state of Michigan. And then your business might also need to consider a coverage called hired and non-owned auto. And this would provide liability coverage for any rented vehicles or personal vehicles that might be used for a work errand here or there. But overall, as you can see, every operation is going to be different. So the insurance coverages you need and the amounts that you need will be different for every business. So thank you for watching, and if you are looking for help with your commercial auto insurance or commercial insurance program as a whole, I would love the opportunity to work with you and see if our team can help. There are a lot of ways to get a hold of me, and they should all be in the description below. Please feel free to text, call, email, fill out a contact form, whatever is easiest. And if you have any other questions about insurance, please feel free to either reach out directly or leave them in the comments below. I would love to help answer those as well. So thank you again.